All right, now we're going to push our code to GitHub, which is the most popular Git hosting platform in the world. So using GitHub, we can store our code in the cloud. Now, why do we need to do this? Because in the next lesson, we're going to use a hosting service that works with GitHub. In fact, these days, a lot of hosting services work with GitHub. So we put our code on GitHub and then go to our hosting service and say, hey, I have a repository here on GitHub. Take the latest version of my code, build it, and deploy it. Okay. So if you don't have a GitHub account, sign up. It's absolutely free, and it's going to take only a few seconds. Now I'm going to log in with my account. Good. So when you log in, on the top, you can click on the plus icon to create a new repository. So we're going to give this repository a name. I'm going to use Moshify. You use something else, okay? So we can give it a description. We can decide if this is going to be public and visible to everyone on our internet or private. I'm going to make this public, nothing special here. Now, optionally, we can add a README file, a gitignore file, and a license file. I'm not worried about any of this at this point, so let's go ahead and create a repository. So now we have an empty Git repository in the cloud on GitHub, okay? Next, we need to configure our local repository to talk to this repository in the cloud. So when we are ready to share our code with others and deploy our website, we push our code from our local repository to this repository in the cloud. So over here, you can see instructions for pushing an existing repository from the command line. So there are 3 commands we need to execute. You don't have to memorize any of these. You can simply copy this and paste it in your terminal window. But let me briefly explain each of these commands. The first command is for adding a remote repository. A remote repository is a repository that is not on our machine, okay? So we have a repository on our machine, and we want to add a remote repository called origin at this address. So github.com/youraccount, and then yourrepository.git, okay? Next, we're changing the name of the default branch in Git. It used to be master. These days, people prefer to call it main, okay? And then using the last command, we're going to push our main branch or main line of work to origin, which is this repository in the cloud, okay? Again, don't worry about these commands. If you want to learn Git and GitHub, I have a comprehensive 6-hour course that goes through all of these details. For now, we're just going to copy all these commands. Then we're going to go to our terminal window and paste. Enter. Done. All right, that was super fast. So back on GitHub, on the top, let's refresh the page. So over here, you can see the latest version of our code. So we have our components folder, CSS, and so on. Now over here, you can see all the commits we have made so far. So on my machine, I have made 35 commits. Each commit contains a snapshot of our project. So this is our latest commit where I added parcel for building. Before that, I had a commit for fixing the validation issues. So here we can see the complete history of our project. We can see who has contributed to this project, when, how. Now back to VS Code, let me walk you through a typical workflow. So let's say we're working on a task. So we go to playground.html and make a small change here. Change 9 to 10. Good. So we have an uncommitted change here. If we go to the source control panel, we can see the updated file. Now we're going to make a commit and say, update the price from $9 to $10. Now we make a commit. This commit is stored only in our local repository. It's not on GitHub. So every day, as we're working on a task, we might make several commits. At some point, when we are ready to share our code with others or deploy our website, we need to push all our commits to our GitHub repository. At that point, we open up our terminal window and type git push. As simple as that. Good. Now, the latest code is on GitHub. Now, back on GitHub, over here, you can see my latest commit, update the price. And if we go back to our project and open playground.html, you can see the updated code where we have $10, okay? So now we're ready to deploy our website. I will show you how to do that next.